Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to another week on my allotment. We've been busy at home recently. Well, I've been busy on the plot and at home. We're getting closer to the potential move. It's a strange system in the UK, buying and selling houses. As we speak right now, we don't know if we're moving or not, because the people who are buying our house are in a chain. Luckily, we don't have a chain. The house we're moving into isn't in a chain, but it's a very complicated affair. And of course, my wife and I, having lived most of our married life in military married quarters, we're complete newbies to this. So it's fascinating to see how difficult they've made the system. My impression of it is they've lengthened the process, made it more complicated, so more and more people can dip in and take their little financial cut. That's my impression of it. That might be my cynical side coming out. Anyway, on the plot, I have mentioned it before, and so I will repeat myself. I have now reconciled myself to the fact that to get decent quantities of fruits and vegetables this year, the only way I can do it is to use my allotment as if it's a normal year. So we'll do a little walk up the plot in a minute, and I'll show you that I've been busy readying the site for the coming growing season, which I'm very excited about for more than one reason. So yeah, I've reconciled to that, and with that I've bought 10 more of these 30 litre potato tubs. There are the reason I'm going to use my allotment as normal is the place we're going to is an acre garden. It's all grass, so it's about as easy as it gets for us to turn it into a thriving kitchen garden. But of course the way we're going to do it is no dig, so we're going to cut the grass and scalp it, lay cardboard down and put compost on top of it and grow into that. But of course we've got to buy the compost. There's no spare soil there, and that's really expensive, so we're not going to be able to lay it all in a one-er. We'll put the cardboard down, but of course we'll have to over the summer and perhaps into next year buy the compost in. So I'm not going to have a ready-made allotment at the new place to grow all our fruits and vegetables. So there's got to be a transition period, and it'll take this whole year, I suspect, to do that. But these tubs are one way that I can start potatoes off here, but then over the summer move them up to the new place and harvest them there. Another thing I will be doing is, I hope we'll be in by April. I mean, the target is March. I suspect it might slip, but if we're in by April, that means I should be able to have enough compost to grow some outdoor tomatoes. There's a greenhouse at the new place. Unbelievably, I haven't been in it. So I hope I'll be able to grow quite a few peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers in the new green. It's not a new greenhouse, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a very rambling, complicated way of saying that I've sort of sorted my plan for the growing year ahead with the allotment and the new kitchen garden when we create it. And these tubs are part of that plan. Anyway, welcome along. I'll take you up the plot, or down the plot, through the plot, and we'll have a look at what I have been busy doing. I've done quite a bit since you last saw me. Then I want to tell you about a little bit of family history, and we'll see where it goes from there. You're very welcome. Well, starting at the back of the plot, this is a good example of what I mean about the long-term transition of my allotment from this site to our new kitchen garden. That's a raspberry there, and then blackberries there, and you can see that I've mulched them heavily with the well-rotted farmyard manure, and they're tied in and they're ready for the season ahead. And I will harvest and pick these blackberries on the site. I'll probably be coming down one day a week from Herefordshire, and then next winter in the dormant season I will cut them down, I will dig them up, and these will go to the new kitchen garden, and by next winter we'll have found somewhere and probably built a frame ready for these to grow on in the new garden. So they've been mulched and they're staying where they are for this season. So that's a good example of what I mean about having the long-term plan of this allotment serving me at least another year. Of course, if the sale of the house falls through, And that's the problem with this system. It can, you know, it can happen at any moment till the contracts are signed. You know, I could be here for another 5-10 years. So it is a difficult time just to mentally get your head around it. But anyway, they're an example of what I mean. So starting at this end, here's all that wood, or a large part of it, ready to build the compost bays either here or at the new kitchen garden. I've not done a lot down here. The rhubarb is surviving the very cold temperatures we're having at the moment. It's definitely the coldest winter we've had for a long time, which is a good thing, unless you're a pensioner. But for growing fruits and vegetables, these cold temperatures are superb. Hopefully they're killing off the little bugs and critters and things that live dormant in the soil waiting to come out and eat my blooming stuff in the spring. So there's the other pots that I've used before, and as I said, you know, I'll be growing. I've got my potatoes already. They're chitting away nicely, and I will grow carrots again in these big tubs. Put the Enviromesh over them, tape it on this time, and they'll have to look after themselves. I won't be here to water them. And I think I've mentioned before that I've got a very good contact at the garden centre now. He's an ex-commando like me, so kindred spirits. And this plywood that I'm going to use to line the individual bays, he keeps putting it aside for me, and I'm beginning to regret. He just doesn't stop. It's like a machine. And every time I go there every Thursday to do my work, he's got another stash for me. I'll keep taking it, because you can never have enough of this stuff. Timber is really expensive now, so if it's free, I'm taking it. But I'm slowly stashing it. Not quite sure how I'll use it, but I know I will. So I'm very grateful to him. So to the plot. Well, if I take you this way, and you can see here how the current compost bays are falling apart. Somehow that's managing to stay upright, but it won't for much longer. So here are all my onion sets, and I've got nearly 200 individual onion sets that have been growing in my greenhouse since the beginning of winter last year. And I've decided it's time they go in, because I've got to clear the greenhouse and the shed, pack it all up ready to go, and then if we don't go, I've got to unpack it all again. So here I've put up the 3 pieces of Harris fencing that I grow the alderman peas up, and I've laid out my guttering to check that when I grow sow the seeds in the guttering, I've got enough guttering to grow full lot of peas up. And I'm not going to do successional sowing. I'm going to sow them all at once. They'll grow all the way together. I'll harvest them all together, and then I will take them up to Herefordshire, where the family will be ready to pod, blanch and freeze them as quick as possible. So that's the plan with the peas. They will be grown on the allotment this year. So this bed, you'll remember, was thick in couch grass. It was a real mess. So I've put the cardboard down. I've laid thick cow manure, organic muck, and it's slowly breaking its way down. I did the same here without the cardboard. So if I show you the 2 beds, this is it looks a lot fresher. Actually, it's the same pile of muck, but this was laid about 3 or 4 months ago, and you can see how well it's breaking down. Every couple of weeks I give it a bit of a rake, and it breaks down into smaller and smaller clods. So it does work. Nature does its thing, and it slowly breaks down. I will soon have daffodils on the plot. It's been fascinating to watch this rather large pumpkin, which I sat there, and it's slowly disintegrated. In fact, it looks to me like the rats have been at it, and they're pulling the seeds out, which of course is exactly what nature's way is intended, isn't it? Those seeds will be spread and they will sprout where I don't want them. but it's my fault for leaving it there. That's basically rat food. I might have to pick that up today. Yeah, so we're still harvesting Brussels sprouts. I do like my Brussels sprouts. We took a stalk up to Charlotte and Carl, so hopefully they're eating those. And here we are. Here's the main bed of onion sets. I suspect a lot of them, as they have in the past, will bolt, but I was talking to Cheryl last night about it. I'll harvest them, take them up to the new place, and we will chop and freeze them, and that way we have them over the winter. This is my garlic crop. I bought those cloves at the Malvern Autumn Show. You can see there's a couple of rows at the top there, but this here, there's nothing to see, but this week I split down some of my own grown garlic bulbs into the cloves, and I've planted my own cloves in there. I've never done that before, but I know others do, and we'll see how it goes. It's nice to see the snowdrops coming out, a sign that spring is on its way. And so as the sun starts to poke its head up, I'm very happy with the way it's going. The kettle's boiling, my hands are frozen, I'm going in for a cup of tea. Of course, I didn't mention it on the walk up the plot, but the strawberries are another case in point. Now is not the time to be digging strawberries up. So, whilst we'll probably lose quite a lot because I'll only get here once a week, these are going to be in here for the growing season ahead, and the strawberries will be dug up and moved to the kitchen garden next autumn winter. And we'll just have to take the hit if we miss some to slugs, etc. I even have a plan for all these primroses. They're going to be dug up and combined with all the pots of snowdrops I've got, of which this is only a fraction. I'm going to plant them. We've got a very large tree in the back garden of the new place. I don't know what it is because when we visited it was leafless and I just couldn't recognise it. But I'm going to put a bench underneath by the trunk, and then the ground underneath, the grass, I'm going to interplant with the primroses and all these snowdrops. I think in the spring it'll be quite a picture. That's the plan. Well then, a little bit of family and social history. And I think I've done this before, so if you've been a long time subscriber and you have an incredible memory, I apologise, I'm about to repeat myself, but I think it's a wonderful story. It's very personal to me and my family, and I think you'll find it absolutely fascinating. So here goes. My dad was born in 1937, so he was a nipper during the Second World War, and his first memories are of the war. And my family lived at the time in the Medway towns. Unfortunately for my dad's family, they lived very close to Chatham Dockyard, which was a strategic bombing target for the Germans in the war. And if you know the geography of the Medway towns down in the southeast of Kent, if you draw a line between the airfields, the bomber airfields that the Germans were using in France to bomb London during the Blitz, you will see, if you draw a straight line, the Medway towns is directly under their flight path. So not only were they trying to bomb Chatham Dockyard, but if pilots were navigationally off, i.e. lost, or absolutely petrified and didn't want to go over London where the flak was intense, then they would drop their bombs, and of course if they were coming back and they hadn't dropped them, they would drop them over my dad's house. So he has some incredible memories of the war. One of his first memories, for example, was he had scarlet fever and he was in isolation in Medway Hospital, and he can remember looking through the big windows watching the German and British fighter planes in dogfights over the River Medway. So anyway, every night the air raid warnings would go off, and everybody had an Anderson shelter. An Anderson shelter was something that was given to each household by the government, and it consisted of some Wrigley tin, and you dug a hole in the back garden and you put this Wrigley tin shelter in, and then you backfilled with soil over the top to give it some overhead cover. And when the air raid warning went off, you were meant to go down the garden and into your own Anderson shelter. The trouble with them was, as soon as you dug down, in a lot of cases they filled with water. Also, they were very cold and scary places to be, and a lot of people preferred to be in their houses. So my granddad was away in the army, so my nan was at home with 2 children, and she was to a large part deaf, and so she wouldn't hear the air raid siren going off. And they had a little evening ritual. What they would do is, when my dad, who was a small boy at the time, heard the air raid warning going off, he would warn his mother. They would pick up his sister, who was a toddler at the time, and they would bash on the door, because they were terraced houses, they'd bash on the wall with a hairbrush to let next door know they were coming, and they would go out the front door, over to next door, in, and then they would spend the evening together. Not particularly safe, but at least they had company, which, you know, when you're petrified out of your wits, is no small thing. Anyway, this one particular night, as normal, the air raid siren went off, and my dad warned his mother. They picked up their few belongings. He used to take a few toys, and he would play under the dining table, I think, where it's a little bit safer. And they went to go out the front door, and as my nan opened the front door, her little boy Charlie pulled her back in. Well, we suspect that he got a thick ear for that, because that's what happened in those days. Anyway, there was a slight pause, and then they went out, round and in as normal, thought no more of it. The following morning, when they came out the front door and it was light, and they went to their own front door, in the pavement, in the path up the front garden, which wasn't big, there was a hole. And years later, or a while later, when my granddad got back from the war, he dug up this hole and they found this. Can you see that? It's a small piece of metal, shrapnel. And it's part, in fact, it's got the smooth casing edge from a German bomb. And my dad, being a nipper with good ears, had heard that and pulled his mum in and probably saved her life. Of course, she didn't appreciate that at the time, and he got a thick ear for his troubles. But I think that is, and of course my granddad dug it out the pavement, or out the path, and to this day, you know, my mum has this in her dining room, and it's a very famous little piece of family history. But it's a lovely story, and it tells of a time long gone. If only children today, with all their anxiety, could realise what children in the past would have had to put up with, and didn't suffer anxiety. It was just, you get on with life. But I think that's wonderful. I'm immensely proud of that little piece of family history, and I thought you'd find the story interesting. Well, here's my next job over the next week or two. These tubs are where I'm going to be growing my carrots. I'm not sowing the carrots until April to get best germination rates, but you can see that these were full up to within an inch of the top last season, but because there's got manure in it, inevitably they rot down. So I've got to dig out the topsoil, put in some manure underneath, and then replace the topsoil and bring them right up to the top. It's a very boring job, but a very necessary one. And I will just do it a couple of tubs each visit, starting today. Well, that's my boredom threshold reached. 3 of them done. That'll do me today. Back to the shed for my lunch. Well, I've had my lunch. Very pleasant it was too. I'm going to call it a day. It is only lunchtime, but you know, this time of the year, you know, putting in a good morning. I'm here early. Putting in a good morning is more than enough. And the only thing I've got left outstanding is my broad bean plants, which are standing at about a foot high now in the greenhouse. But we've got a few cold mornings coming this week with -1 or something. So I figure, you know, just for the sake of another week, I'll keep them in the greenhouse, and then they can come out, go in the ground, and face what's coming. They're hardy plants, they'll be fine. So that's the last thing growing I've got to go in the ground. And then it's a case of waiting, watching Charles Dowding's calendar when he says green light, go. But I am slowly learning just to be patient and wait. You know, this time of the year, normally I would have trays of seedlings on the windowsills in the spare bedroom facing the sun, and you know, and I've stopped all that because the plants get ahead of themselves and you can't put them in the greenhouse because it's still cold at night, etc, etc. So I am learning to be a bit more measured in my approach. I should be at my age. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Thanks to those who've subscribed. I appreciate every single one of you. Please give it a thumbs up if you can and leave a comment. I'll enjoy them all. And all being well, I'll see you next week. I'm not sure what's going on. We move now towards the sort of more exciting part where hopefully things will start to happen. I won't be spending so much time up here because there's things to be packed and disposed of and so on at home. But hopefully I'll be here next weekend. Until then, look after yourselves, take care, and bye for now.